The cold metal halls of the Zephyrian research ship buzzed with excitement. Captain Vexitar had seen many strange things in his 40 years of space travel, but nothing like this. His crew had been searching through the broken remains of an old, human ship for 3 days now. Most of the wreckage was useless, just twisted metal and dead machines floating in the dark void of space. But today was different. Deep inside what used to be the ship's storage area, they found something that made everyone stop and stare. It was a cryopod, still working after all these years. The small lights on its side blinked green, showing that whatever was inside was still alive. Vexitar stood 12 feet tall, like all Zephyrians. His body looked like it was made of blue crystal, hard and sharp. His forearms moved quickly as he checked the readings on his scanner. The pod was old, very old. The markings on its side were in human writing, a language that most Zephyrians had forgotten. Humans had been gone for over 200 years. "Captain," said his science officer, Krell Knox, "the life signs are strong. Whatever is in there is healthy." Vexitar felt his heart's beating faster. 231 years ago, the Zephyrian Empire had wiped out the humans. It had been easy. The humans were weak, peaceful creatures who spent more time looking at stars than fighting wars. They had no real weapons, no strong armies. When the Empire came to take their worlds, the humans barely fought back, or so the history books said. "Get it to the ship," Vexitar ordered. "Contact High Command. Tell them we found something special." The cryopod was carefully moved to the research ship. Vexitar called the best scientists in the Empire. Dr. Krell Knox was known throughout the HFY galaxy as the expert on dead species. If anyone could safely wake up the human inside the pod, it was him. The news spread fast through the Empire. A living human had been found, the last of its kind, sleeping in space for over 2 centuries. Scientists came from all over the galaxy to see it. Military commanders wanted to study it. Everyone was curious about the creatures they had destroyed so long ago. The cryopod was taken to Proxima 7, a research station that orbited a dead planet. The station was huge, with the best labs and equipment in the Empire. Dr. Krell Knox spent weeks getting ready to wake up the human. He studied old files about human biology. He prepared special rooms with the right air and temperature. He made sure everything was perfect. Commander Thesera ran the military side of the station. She was a warrior who had fought in dozens of battles. Her purple crystal skin was covered in scars from many wars. She did not trust this human even if it was asleep. Humans were supposed to be extinct for a good reason. "Why are we waking it up?" she asked Dr. Krell Knox one day. "Dead things should stay dead." "Because we can learn from it," the doctor replied. "We can study how humans lived, how they thought. This creature is the last link to a species we destroyed. Think of what we might discover." The day finally came to open the pod. Scientists and soldiers gathered around as Dr. Krell Knox began the wake-up process. Machines beeped and hummed. The temperature inside the pod slowly rose. After 200 years of sleep, the human was about to open its eyes. The pod's lid opened with a soft hiss. Steam came out as the cold air met the warm air of the lab. Inside, lying still as death, was a human male. He looked young, maybe 30 years old. His skin was pale from the long sleep. His hair was dark brown, cut short like a soldier's. His body looked strong, with muscles that showed even through his thin clothes. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the human's chest moved up and down. He was breathing. His fingers moved slightly. His eyelids started to open. Dr. Krell Knox leaned closer with his scanner. The human's heart was beating steadily. His brain waves were normal. Everything looked good. Then the human's eyes opened completely. They were brown, like earth dirt. He looked around the room, taking in the strange alien faces staring down at him. He did not scream or panic like most creatures would. Instead, he sat up slowly, moving his arms and legs to test them. "How long was I out?" the human asked in a calm voice. The words came through the translation device clearly. Dr. Krell Knox was surprised. Most creatures woke up confused and scared after cryosleep. This human seemed perfectly normal, like he had just taken a short nap. "You have been asleep for 231 years, Dr. Krell Knox said. What is your name? The human stretched his arms over his head. His joints made small popping sounds. Jake Martinez, Sergeant, First Class, Earth Colonial Defense Force. His voice was steady and strong. I'm guessing things didn't go well after I went under. Dr. Krelnox looked at his notes. Your species fought the Zephyrian Empire in the year 2156. The war lasted 6 months. Your people were defeated. All human worlds were taken. Your species was declared extinct. Jake nodded like this news did not surprise him. Figured as much. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't have found me floating in space. He looked around the room again, studying each alien face. So what happens now? Am I a prisoner or a science project? You are a guest, Dr. Krelnox said quickly. We want to learn about your people. You are the last human in the galaxy. Your knowledge is very valuable to us. Jake laughed, but it was not a happy sound. Last human. That's something. He stood up from the pod. The aliens stepped back as he rose to his full height. He was only 6 feet tall, much shorter than the Zephyrians, but something about the way he moved made them nervous. As Jake put his feet on the floor, there was a strange sound. The metal under his feet made a small dent. Dr. Krelnox looked at his scanner. The readings were wrong. According to the machine, Jake weighed much more than he should. His bones were denser than any known creature. His muscles were packed tighter than should be possible. Is there somewhere I can clean up? Jake asked. 200 years of sleep makes a man feel pretty rough. Commander Thesara had been watching, quietly from the back of the room. She stepped forward, her forearms crossed. You will be given quarters on level 5. You will have guards at all times. You will not leave your area without permission. Jake looked at her and smiled. It was a friendly smile, but something in his eyes made the commander uncomfortable. Sure thing. Lead the way. As they walked through the halls of the station, Jake moved carefully. He seemed to be thinking about every step, every movement. When he touched a wall to steady himself, his fingers left small marks in the metal. When he opened a door, the handle bent slightly under his grip. The other aliens whispered among themselves as they watched him pass. This human was different from what they expected. The old records said humans were weak, soft creatures. But Jake moved like a predator, like something built for war. Dr. Krelnox made notes on his data pad as they walked. The human's strength was far beyond normal ranges. His reflexes seemed incredibly fast. His awareness of his surroundings was almost supernatural. Either the old records about humans were wrong, or Jake Martinez was not a normal human. When they reached his quarters, Jake looked around the small room. It had a bed, a desk, and a window that showed the stars outside. Everything was built for creatures much larger than him. Not bad, he said. Better than some places I've slept. He sat down on the bed, and it creaked under his weight. So, Doc, what do you want to know about humans? Dr. Krelnox realized he had many questions, but suddenly none of them seemed safe to ask. This human was supposed to be the last survivor of a weak, defeated species. But looking at Jake Martinez, the doctor wondered if they had made a terrible mistake in waking him up. Outside the window, the stars looked the same as they always had. But somehow, everything felt different now. The last human was awake, and the galaxy would never be the same. The next morning, Jake woke up feeling better than he had in centuries. The strange thing was he actually felt better than he had before going into cryosleep. His body felt stronger, his mind clearer. He stretched and heard his joints pop in, a way that sounded almost like metal bending. Dr. Krelnox arrived early with a team of medical assistants. They rolled in machines and scanners, all designed to study Jake's body. The doctor was excited to learn more about human biology, but he was also nervous. The readings from yesterday still bothered him. Good morning, Jake, Dr. Krelnox said through the translator. We would like to do some tests today. Nothing painful, just scans and measurements. Jake sat up on the edge of his bed. As he did, the metal frame creaked loudly. Sure, Doc, but I have some questions first. Of course. What would you like to know? Jake stood up and walked to the window. His bare feet made small dents in the floor with each step. You said my people fought your empire for 6 months. That seems pretty short for a war. Dr. Krellnox checked his notes. Yes, from first contact to final defeat, it was exactly 6 months and 12 days. Your people were not prepared for war. They had no strong military, no advanced weapons. Most human settlements surrendered without fighting. Jake nodded slowly. What year did this happen? The year 2156 by your calendar. Jake was quiet for a long moment. Then he started laughing. It was not a happy laugh. 2156. You invaded us in 2156. He turned away from the window to look at the aliens. Doc, you might want to sit down for this. Dr. Krellnox felt a chill run through his crystal body. What do you mean? I went into cryo sleep in 2151. The resource wars had just ended. Do you know what the resource wars were, Doc? The doctor shook his head. The historical records about humans were not very detailed. The Empire had not thought humans were important enough to study closely. Jake sat down in a chair that groaned under his weight. The resource wars lasted from 2089 to 2151, 62 years of the bloodiest fighting humanity had ever seen. We fought over water, over minerals, over land. Every nation, every colony, every settlement had armies. We built weapons that could crack planets. We created soldiers who could fight for days without rest. Dr. Krellnox felt his hearts beating faster. But the records say humans were peaceful in 2156. That's because we were tired. Jake's voice was quiet now. After 62 years of war, we finally made peace. We decided to stop fighting each other and start exploring the galaxy instead. We were done with violence. We wanted to build, not destroy. The medical assistant tried to attach a scanner to Jake's arm. The device immediately sparked and broke. Jake had not even moved, but somehow his skin was too dense for the machine to work. We put away our weapons, Jake continued. We turned our warships into exploration vessels. We converted our weapons labs into science centers. For 5 years, humanity was peaceful. We thought we were done with war forever. Dr. Krellnox was writing notes as fast as he could. So the Empire invaded during this peaceful time? Looks that way. Jake reached out to touch another scanner. The machine crumpled like paper in his hand. He looked at the broken device with mild interest. Sorry about that. I guess I don't know my own strength. Commander Thisara had been listening from the doorway. She stepped into the room, her forearms crossed in a defensive position. Are you saying humans were warriors before 2156? Jake looked at her and smiled. It was the same friendly smile from yesterday, but now it seemed more dangerous. Commander, let me put it this way. I was born in 2121, right in the middle of the resource wars. By the time I was 18, I had fought in 12 major battles. By the time I was 25, I was leading assault teams on enemy colonies. By the time I went into cryosleep, I had been fighting for 30 years. The room went very quiet. The medical assistants stopped working. Dr. Krellnox put down his data pad. Commander Thisara moved her hand closer to her weapon. What kind of soldier were you? The commander asked. Standard infantry, nothing special. There were millions like me. Jake stood up again. This time, the chair he had been sitting in had small cracks where his hands had gripped the arms. The special forces guys, the pilots, the heavy weapons. Teams, they were the really scary ones. Dr. Krellnox tried to process this information. But you said you were tired of war. You said humans became peaceful. We did. We were exhausted. Imagine fighting for 60 years, then suddenly having peace. We wanted to enjoy it. We wanted to explore, to learn, to grow. Jake walked to the medical table in the center of the room. When your empire showed up, we were like sleeping lions. Dangerous, but too tired to fight. He placed his hand on the medical table to steady himself. The thick metal surface immediately began to bend under his palm. Jake pulled his hand away quickly and looked at the damage with surprise. That's been happening a lot, he said. I keep breaking things without meaning to. Dr. Krellnox ran a new scan on Jake from across the room. The readings were impossible. Jake's bone density was 3 times higher than it should be. His muscle, Fibers were packed so tightly they barely registered on the scanner. His nervous system was running at speeds that should have been deadly. "Jake," the doctor said carefully, "how do you feel? Are you in any pain?" "I feel great. Better than I have in years. It's weird, actually. I feel stronger than before I went into cryo sleep. Faster, too." Jake looked at his hands. "Is that normal?" "No," Dr. Krelnock said. "It is not normal at all." Commander Thesera stepped closer. "Explain to me how your species fought wars." "What weapons did you use?" Jake thought for a moment. "Depends on the situation. For space battles, we had plasma cannons that could punch through ship armor like paper. For ground combat, we used kinetic rifles that fired metal slugs at near light speed. For close combat," he paused. "Well, for close combat, we mostly used our hands." "Your hands?" "Sure. Humans are built for fighting. We're persistence hunters. We chase our prey until it gets tired, then we kill it with our bare hands. It's what we're designed for." Jake flexed his fingers. "Though I guess the cryo sleep changed me somehow. I feel like I could punch through steel right now." To prove his point, Jake gently tapped the wall with his knuckles. The metal dented inward. Everyone in the room took a step back. "Interesting," Jake said, staring at the dent. "That shouldn't have happened." Dr. Krelnox was frantically taking notes. "Jake, during your cryo sleep, your body may have undergone changes. Human DNA contains many dormant sequences. Perhaps the long sleep activated some of them." Dormant sequences, evolutionary traits that are present in your genetic code but normally inactive. Backup systems, you might say. Ways for your species to adapt to extreme situations. Jake nodded. "Makes sense. Humans are good at adapting. It's how we survived the resource wars." He looked around the room at all the broken equipment. "Though I probably should have mentioned this earlier, Doc." Commander Thesera was backing toward the door. "Mentioned what?" "I wasn't alone in that cryopod. I mean, I was the only one in my pod, but there were thousands of other pods on that colony ship." Jake's smile was friendly, but his eyes were cold. "When your people attacked the ship, it broke apart. Those pods got scattered all over the galaxy." Dr. Krelnox felt his blood turn to ice. "Thousands? At least 3,000. Maybe more. We were trying to preserve as many people as possible before the end." Jake walked back to the window and looked out at the stars. "They're all still out there somewhere, drifting in space, waiting to be found." The room was completely silent. Everyone was thinking the same thing. If Jake was just a standard soldier, and if the cryo sleep had made him stronger, what would happen when the others woke up? "Doc," Jake said quietly, still looking out the window, "I think you might want to call your bosses. They're going to want to hear about this." Commander Thesera was already reaching for her communication device. But as she did, she wondered if it was already too late. The Empire had destroyed humanity when they were weak and tired. But now they were waking up strong and angry, and there were thousands of them scattered across the galaxy, just waiting to be found. The emergency meeting happened 3 hours after Jake's revelation about the other cryopods. High command officers from across the sector came to Proxima 7 through quantum communication links. Their holographic forms filled the main conference room, all talking at once in worried voices. General Zorthak, the Empire's top military leader, appeared as a massive red crystal figure. His voice boomed through the speakers. "How many pods did you say were scattered?" Dr. Krelnox looked at his notes with shaking hands. "According to Jake Martinez, at least 3,000. Possibly more. The colony ship was massive, designed to carry entire populations. And they are all soldiers like this Jake creature? We do not know, but Jake claims he was just standard infantry. If the others are specialists..." Dr. Krelnox did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. Commander Thesera stood at attention. "General, I request permission to increase security around the human. His physical capabilities are beyond anything we have seen." General Zorthak leaned forward. "Explain." "He breaks everything he touches without trying. His strength is impossible to measure. This morning he bent a solid steel doorframe just by leaning on it. The medical scanners cannot penetrate his skin. And, sir, She paused. He moves like a predator. Every step is calculated. He watches everything, remembers everything. He is studying us. In his quarters, Jake was indeed studying them. He had been awake for 3 days now, and he was learning fast. The Zephyrians were strong, but they were not warriors. They had become soft during their centuries of easy conquest. Their military tactics were basic, designed for fighting weaker species that surrendered quickly. Jake sat at his small desk, which now had cracks running through it from where he had rested his arms. He was thinking about the layout of the station, the guard rotations, the weapon placements, not because he planned to escape, but because it was what soldiers did. They always gathered intelligence. A soft knock came at his door. "Come in," Jake called. Dr. Krellnox entered with a new medical assistant, a young Zephyrian named Veltar. The assistant carried a box of scanning equipment, all of it reinforced to handle Jake's unusual biology. "Good afternoon, Jake. We would like to try some new tests, if you do not mind." Jake smiled and stood up. As he did, his chair made a loud cracking sound. One of the legs had finally broken under the constant stress. "Sure thing, Doc, though you might want to get me a stronger chair." Veltar stared at the broken furniture, with wide eyes. "How much do you weigh?" he asked through the translator. "Before cryo sleep, about 200 pounds. Now?" Jake shrugged. "Feels like more. My bones are definitely heavier. My muscles, too. It's like every cell in my body got denser." Dr. Krellnox set up a new scanner, this one the size of a small vehicle. "We want to map your brain activity while you perform simple tasks. Will you cooperate?" "Of course." Jake walked over to the machine. With each step, small cracks appeared in the floor. "What kind of tasks?" "Basic problem solving. We will show you puzzles, ask you questions about tactics and strategy." Jake nodded. "Sounds easy enough." The first test was a simple maze on a screen. Most species took several minutes to solve it. Jake looked at it for 3 seconds and traced the solution with his finger. The screen cracked under the light pressure. "Next puzzle," Jake said. They showed him military scenarios. A convoy under attack, a base being surrounded, a fleet trapped in enemy space. Jake solved each one in seconds, his answers so detailed and efficient that Dr. Krellnox had to check them twice to make sure they were correct. "Jake," the doctor said after the 10th puzzle, "how are you solving these so quickly?" "Pattern recognition. Humans are good at it. We see how things connect, how they flow together." Jake tapped the side of his head. "Plus, I fought in scenarios like these for 30 years. After a while, you start to see the same patterns over and over." Veltar was staring at the readings from Jake's brain scan. "Doctor, look at this. His neural activity is off the charts. The connections between his brain cells are firing faster than our machines can track." Dr. Krellnox looked at the data. It was impossible. Jake's brain was processing information at speeds that should have caused seizures or death. Instead, he seemed perfectly calm and relaxed. "Jake, do you feel different mentally? Smarter than before?" Jake considered the question. "Yeah, actually. I feel like my thoughts are clearer. Like there used to be fog in my head and now it is gone. I can see patterns I never noticed before. Remember things more clearly." He paused. "Is that normal for cryosleep?" "No, it is not normal at all." Commander Thaisara entered the room at that moment. She had been listening to the tests through the communication system. "Jake, I have a question for you." "Shoot. If you were to attack this station, how would you do it?" Dr. Krellnox looked alarmed. "Commander, is that wise? I need to know what we are dealing with." Jake leaned back against the wall. The metal creaked under his weight. "Attack this station? From the inside or outside?" "Both." Jake was quiet for a moment, his enhanced brain working through the problem. "From the outside, I would target your power generators first. They are poorly defended, and without power, your shields and weapons go down. Then I would hit your communication arrays, so you cannot call for help. After that, breach the hull in sections 7 and 12, because your emergency response teams cannot cover both areas at the same time." Commander Thysara felt cold. Jake had identified weaknesses in their defenses that had taken her years to discover. From the inside, Jake continued, I would wait for shift change at 600 hours. That is when you have the fewest guards on duty. I would disable the artificial gravity first, because you are not trained to fight in zero gravity, but humans are. Then I would take control of the central computer core and lock down all the blast doors, trapping everyone in separate sections. The room was completely silent. Jake had just described a perfect plan to take over the station, and he had done it without even trying hard. How long would it take you to capture this station? Commander Thysara asked quietly. Jake shrugged. Maybe an hour. Less if I did not care about keeping everyone alive. Dr. Krelnox was frantically taking notes. Jake, how many humans would it take to conquer a planet? Depends on the planet. A civilian world? Maybe a dozen soldiers? A military world? Jake thought about it. 50 if they were good. 100 if you wanted to be safe. And to conquer the entire Zephyrian Empire? Jake laughed. Doc, you guys have what, 10,000 worlds? Most of them are not military targets. You would need maybe 1,000 really good soldiers. Give them proper equipment and support and they could take the whole empire in a year. Commander Thysara was backing toward the door again. 1,000 humans could defeat the entire empire. Easy. See, the thing about humans is that we do not fight like other species. We do not line up our armies and have big battles. We use small teams, hit-and-run tactics, psychological warfare. We make our enemies afraid to sleep at night. Jake's eyes got a distant look. During the resource wars, I saw a single human squad take down an entire enemy division. They did not even fire a shot. They just made the enemy think they were surrounded by thousands of soldiers. Dr. Krelnox was writing so fast his stylus was smoking. How? Humans are sneaky. We are patient. We learn our enemies' weaknesses and exploit them. We turn their strength against them. We make them defeat themselves. Jake stood up and walked to the window. The Zephyrian Empire is powerful, but it has one big weakness. What weakness? Commander Thysara asked, though she was not sure. She wanted to hear the answer. Jake turned around and smiled. You have never fought a real war. All your victories have been against weak species that surrendered quickly. You do not know how to fight an enemy that fights back, an enemy that adapts, an enemy that never gives up. He looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, my people are waking up. They are going to be confused at first, just like I was. But then they are going to realize what happened to Earth, what happened to humanity. And when they do... Jake did not finish the sentence, but everyone in the room could imagine what came next. 3,000 angry human soldiers enhanced by cryo sleep, scattered across the galaxy. Each one capable of taking down entire military installations. Each one trained in 60 years of brutal warfare. Dr. Krelnox looked at his data one more time. Jake's physical and mental capabilities were still increasing. Every day he got stronger, faster, smarter. If the other humans were experiencing the same changes... Commander, the doctor said quietly, I think we need to contact the Emperor immediately. Commander Thysara was already activating her communication device. But deep down, she wondered if it was already too late. The Zephyrian Empire had ruled the galaxy for centuries through fear and overwhelming force. But they had never faced an enemy like humanity. And now humanity was waking up, one pod at a time, scattered across their empire like seeds of war waiting to bloom. The age of easy conquest was about to end. The age of humanity was about to begin. Emperor Caxith himself arrived at Proxima 7 the next day. The golden crystal ruler of the Zephyrian Empire had not left his home world in 50 years, but the reports about Jake Martinez were too important to ignore. He brought with him the Empire's top generals, scientists, and weapons experts. Jake watched through his window as the massive Imperial ship docked with the station. The vessel was 3 miles long and covered in weapons. It was designed to scare enemies into surrender just by showing up. Impressive ship, Jake said to Commander Thysara when she came to escort him to the meeting. Must have taken a lot of resources to build. The Imperial Dreadnought has conquered 100 worlds, the commander replied with pride. Jake nodded politely. I bet it has. Those worlds probably did not have much of a space fleet though, right? Commander Thisara did not answer, but her silence told Jake everything he needed to know. The Zephyrian Empire was built on conquering weak civilizations. They had never faced real military opposition. The throne room had been converted into a testing facility. Dozens of cameras and sensors were set up around a large circular arena. Emperor Caxeth sat on his crystal throne, 15 feet tall and glowing with inner light. His voice boomed when he spoke. Human creature, I am told you have interesting capabilities. I wish to see them for myself. Jake stood in the center of the arena, looking small compared to all the massive aliens around him. He wore simple gray clothes and had no weapons or armor. To most observers, he looked harmless. What did you have in mind, Your Majesty? Jake asked with a respectful bow. General Zorthak stepped forward. We will test your combat abilities against our battle drones. These machines have defeated warriors from every species in our empire. Sounds fair, Jake said. How many drones? We will start with one. A panel in the floor opened and a combat drone rose up. It was 8 feet tall, made of black metal with 4 arms that ended in energy weapons. Red lights glowed where its eyes should be. The machine had been designed to be intimidating, and it worked on most species. Jake looked at the drone with the calm interest of someone examining a new tool. Nice design. Very scary looking. Can I have a minute to stretch first? The request seemed so innocent that no one objected. Jake began doing simple exercises, rolling his shoulders, bending his knees, twisting his spine. What the observers did not realize was that he was systematically waking up muscle memory from decades of combat training. As Jake stretched, his enhanced brain was analyzing the drone. He noted the servo motors in its joints, the power cables running along its arms, the sensor arrays in its head. He calculated its likely speed, strength, and reaction time. By the time he finished stretching, he knew exactly how to defeat it. Ready when you are, Jake said. General Zorthak activated the drone. It immediately raised its weapons and fired at Jake with stunning energy blasts that could knock down a building. Jake was not there anymore. He had moved so fast that the cameras barely caught it. One moment he was standing in the center of the arena, the next he was behind the drone. His hand touched the back of the machine's head, and the drone simply stopped working. The entire arena was silent. The drone had been active for less than 3 seconds. What did you do? General Zorthak demanded. Jake held up a small piece of circuitry. Disconnected its main processor. The drone is fine. It just cannot think anymore. He gently pushed the machine, and it fell over with a loud crash. Emperor Caxeth leaned forward on his throne. Again, use 5 drones this time. 5 drones rose from the floor, surrounding Jake in a circle. They were faster than the first one, with better weapons and armor. They attacked at the same time from all directions. Jake moved like water flowing around rocks. He slipped between energy blasts, ducked under swinging arms, and touched each drone exactly where it needed to be touched. 5 machines that could have destroyed a small army were disabled in less than 10 seconds. More, the Emperor commanded. 10 drones, 20, 30. Each time Jake moved through them like they were standing still. He never looked rushed or stressed. He never wasted a movement. Each action was perfect, calculated, efficient. The observers began to understand that they were not watching a fight. They were watching an artist at work. 50 drones, General Zorthak said. His voice was shaking now. All at once, 50 combat drones filled the arena. They were the Empire's best war machines, each one capable of fighting 100 normal soldiers. Their combined firepower could level a city. Jake stood in the center, completely relaxed. You know, he said conversationally, these drones have a fundamental flaw in their programming. The drones opened fire with everything they had. Energy beams, plasma bolts, and explosive rounds filled the air. The arena became a storm of deadly light and sound. When the smoke cleared, all 50 drones lay in neat piles around the arena. None of them were destroyed, just carefully disabled. Jake stood exactly where he had been before, without a scratch on him. What flaw? Dr. Krell asked in amazement. Jake picked up a piece of drone armor that had been blown off during the battle. They are designed to fight enemies that think like Zephyrians. Predictable tactics, straightforward attacks, overwhelming force. He crushed the armor plate in his hand like it was made of paper. Humans do not think that way. Emperor Caxith stood up from his throne. For the first time in his long life, he felt afraid. How did you avoid all those weapons? I did not avoid them. I redirected them. Jake pointed to scorch marks on the walls and floor. Your drones were shooting each other. I just moved them into position and let their own programming do the work. General Zorthak was studying the recordings of the battle. Impossible. The reaction time required, the spatial awareness, the tactical thinking. No organic creature can process information that fast. Jake shrugged. Humans can. We evolved to hunt in packs, to coordinate attacks, to think 3 steps ahead of our prey. The cryo sleep just made me better at what I was already good at. Dr. Krell was taking frantic notes. Jake, during the resource wars, were all human soldiers capable of this? Some were better, some were worse. I was pretty average. Jake looked around the arena at all the disabled drones. Though I have to say, these machines are not as tough as the ones we fought during the wars. Human-built war drones were much nastier. Human-built war drones? Commander Thisara asked. Sure. We built machines to fight other machines. They had to be smart, adaptive, unpredictable. Otherwise, they would lose. Jake smiled his friendly smile. I could probably build you a few if you want to see the difference. The thought of Jake building weapons made everyone in the room very uncomfortable. Emperor Caxith sat back down heavily. Human, tell me honestly, if your people were to wage war against my empire, what would happen? Jake considered the question, seriously. Well, Your Majesty, that would depend on a few things. How angry are they? How organized can they get? What kind of resources do they have access to? Assume they are very angry. Assume they can organize. Assume they have access to our technology. Jake nodded slowly. In that case, Your Majesty, I would estimate 6 months. 6 months? For what? 6 months for the complete collapse of your empire. Jake's voice was matter-of-fact, like he was discussing the weather. Maybe less if they decide not to take prisoners. The arena was completely silent except for the hum of machinery. Everyone was processing what they had just heard. The human had defeated 50 of their best war machines without breaking a sweat. He had done it using tactics they did not understand and abilities they could not measure, and he claimed to be just an average soldier. Somewhere in the dark void of space, other cryopods were drifting between the stars. Other humans were slowly waking up, their bodies and minds enhanced by centuries of sleep. They would be confused at first, then angry when they learned what had happened to their species, and when enough of them woke up. When they found each other and began to work together, the galaxy would learn what humanity was truly capable of. Emperor Caxith looked at Jake Martinez, the last human, and realized he might also be the first harbinger of his empire's doom. The creature standing calmly in the arena was not just a soldier. He was a preview of humanity's return, and humanity was going to be very, very angry. 3 days after the combat demonstration, emergency reports began flooding into Proxima 7 from across the galaxy. The first came from the Outer Rim territories. A mining station had found a strange pod floating in an asteroid field. When they brought it aboard, something inside had awakened and taken control of their entire facility in less than an hour. The second report came from a military outpost near the core worlds. Patrol ships had discovered wreckage from an ancient, human vessel. Inside the wreckage were dozens of cryopods. 3 had been activated. The outpost went silent 12 hours later. Emperor Caxith stood in the command center, watching the reports pour in. Each one was the same story. Human cryo. Pods were being found all across the Empire, and the humans inside them were waking up angry. How many have been discovered so far? The Emperor asked General Zorthak. 47 confirmed awakenings, Your Majesty. But the pattern suggests There are many more we have not found yet. Dr. Krelnox was studying the data from each awakening. The humans are all showing the same enhancements as Jake: increased strength, speed, intelligence. But some are even more advanced. What do you mean? The human found at Mining Station 7 was a combat engineer. He rebuilt their defense systems in 6 hours, making them 3 times more effective. The humans at Military Outpost 12 included a pilot. She took control of their entire fighter squadron without even boarding the ships. Emperor Caxith felt his crystal heart growing cold. Where is Jake Martinez now? Commander Thisara checked her monitors. Still in his quarters, Your Majesty. He has been very quiet since the combat test. Mostly he just sits by the window and looks at the stars. In his quarters, Jake was indeed looking at the stars, but he was not just watching them. His enhanced mind was calculating distances, plotting courses, identifying the locations where other colony ships might have crashed. He was building a map of where his people were waking up. 3 soft knocks came at his door. It was the pattern Dr. Krelnox always used. Come in, Doc. Dr. Krelnox entered with a datapad in his hands. His usual confidence was gone, replaced by obvious fear. Jake, we need to talk. About the other humans waking up? Yeah. I figured that would start happening soon. Jake did not turn away from the window. How many so far? 47 confirmed. Probably more that we have not discovered yet. Jake nodded. Sounds about right. The colony ships were spread pretty wide when they broke up. It will take time to find all the pods. Jake, some of your people are attacking our facilities. Now Jake did turn around. His expression was serious. Are they killing anyone? No. They seem to be focused on taking control rather than causing casualties. But Jake, they are taking control. Every facility where humans have awakened is now under human command. Jake sat down on his bed, which creaked under his weight. That makes sense. Standard doctrine when waking up in enemy territory is to secure the immediate area and gather intelligence. Is that what you have been doing? Gathering intelligence? Jake smiled sadly. Doc, I have been gathering intelligence since the moment I woke up. I know the layout of this station better than your security chief. I know your guard rotations, your weapons placements, your communication codes. I know where the Emperor sleeps and what he eats for breakfast. Dr. Krelnox felt his legs go weak. Why have you not acted on this information? Because I was hoping we could work something out peacefully. I was hoping that maybe, after 200 years, there could be a different ending to this story. Jake stood up and walked back to the window. But it looks like my people have made their choice. What choice? They are not trying to escape or hide. They are taking control of your facilities. That means they are planning something bigger. Jake pointed at the stars. See, Doc, humans do not just fight individual battles. We fight campaigns. We plan for the long term. Dr. Krelnox was frantically taking notes. What kind of campaign? Well, if I were in their position, I would start by securing strategic locations. Control communications, weapons production, shipbuilding facilities. Then I would find the other cryopods and wake up more humans. Build up strength while gathering intelligence about the enemy. And then? Jake was quiet for a long moment. And then I would make the enemy pay for what they did to Earth. Emperor Caxith had been listening to the conversation through hidden microphones. He activated the communication system in Jake's room. Human, this is Emperor Caxith. I wish to speak with you, Your Majesty, Jake said with a polite nod toward the speaker. What can I do for you? I want to discuss terms. Jake laughed, but it was not a happy sound. Terms? Your Majesty, with respect, you are not in a position to negotiate terms. Explain. Jake walked over to the communication panel. Your Majesty, let me tell you what is happening right now. My people are waking up all across your empire. Each one is taking control of whatever facility they find themselves in. They are not doing this randomly. They are following a plan. What plan? The same plan we used during the resource wars when we needed to take territory quickly. Secure key points. Establish communication networks, coordinate attacks. Right now, humans control at least 47 locations in your empire. In a few days it will be hundreds. In a few weeks, thousands. Emperor Caxith felt the weight of his empire crumbling around him. What do your people want? Justice, Jake said simply. You wiped out our species. You destroyed our worlds. You scattered our survivors like seeds in the wind. And you did it when we were tired and peaceful, when we had put down our weapons and chosen to explore instead of fight. That was over 200 years ago. Not to us. To us, it feels like yesterday. We went to sleep on human worlds under human skies. We woke up in alien hands in an empire built on our graves. Jake's voice was getting harder now. Your Majesty, my people are not just angry. They are furious. Dr. Krelnock stepped closer to the communication panel. Jake, surely there must be some way to avoid war, some way for our species to coexist. Jake turned to look at him. Doc, I like you. You have been kind to me, treated me well. But you work for an empire that committed genocide against my species, and that empire is still celebrating that genocide as a great victory. What would it take for peace? Emperor Caxeth asked. Jake considered the question carefully. Complete surrender. Every Zephyrian world, every military unit, every government official. Turn control of the empire over to humanity and accept whatever judgment we decide to give you. The communication channel was silent for a full minute. And if we refuse? The Emperor finally asked. Then my people will take it by force. And your Majesty, we are very good at taking things by force. As if summoned by his words, new reports began flooding the command center. More human awakenings, more facilities taken, more of the empire falling under human control. But the most disturbing report came from the intelligence division. They had found the wreckage of the original colony ship that Jake had come from. Analysis of the debris showed that the ship had not been carrying 3,000 cryopods. It had been carrying 30,000. Emperor Caxeth stared at the report in horror. 30,000 humans, enhanced by cryosleep, scattered across his empire. If even half of them were found and awakened, they would outnumber his entire military command structure. Jake, Dr. Krelnock said quietly, how long do you think this war will last? Jake looked out at the stars one more time. Somewhere out there, his people were waking up. They were angry, enhanced, and ready for war. The peaceful humanity that the Zephyrians had destroyed was gone forever. In its place was something harder, stronger, and infinitely more dangerous. Doc, Jake said softly, I do not think it will be a war. I think it will be a reckoning. 3 days later, the Zephyrian empire began to fall. Not all at once, but piece by piece, world by world, as humanity reclaimed what had been taken from them. The humans did not conquer like the Zephyrians had, with overwhelming force and terror. They liberated, they organized, they built, and they remembered. Jake Martinez, the first human to wake up, became the voice of humanity's return. He spoke to Zephyrian leaders, offered them choices, gave them chances to surrender peacefully. Some took those chances, others did not. In the end, it took 8 months for humanity to reclaim the galaxy. Not 6 months as Jake had predicted, because they chose mercy over vengeance, rebuilding over destruction. But the age of the Zephyrian Empire was over. The age of humanity had begun again.